Pizza franchises are suffering right now in the United States. Their sales is actually going down because of Uber Eats and
Hmm.
DoorDash
Hmm.
because they were making money on delivery, and now people don't use them because they for the same amount of money they can get different food. I don't want to say better or not better,
Yep.
but
Yep.
everybody's taste is different. But it changed the whole landscape, growing month to month, especially during COVID, and then industry changed. I mean, look what Uber did to taxis.
We forget that we need to keep our eyes open. Part of dealing with uncertainty, part of being successful as an entrepreneur, is keeping your eyes open and your ears open to things that are happening and then to be able to connect the dots. You're listening to The Uncertainty Edge, the show about the art and science of moving forward when the path isn't clear. I'm your host, Sam Sivarajan. Each episode, I sit down with leaders, advisors, and thinkers to explore how they navigate uncertainty, make better decisions, and stay focused in a world that rarely cooperates. Together, we'll look for the clarity hidden inside uncertainty. Welcome to The Uncertainty Edge, the podcast that explores how great leaders think, decide, and act in high stakes, high change situations. I'm your host, Sam Sivarajan, keynote speaker, behavioral scientist, and author to decision makers balancing risk and reward. Today, I'm joined by Max Emma, a serial entrepreneur who has turned challenging setbacks into defining comebacks. Max emigrated to the US from the former Soviet Union, built a construction company with almost 100 employees, lost everything in the 2008 financial crisis, and rebuilt from bankruptcy to create Bookkeeping, now the only bookkeeping franchise in the United States serving over 100 brands. As a certified franchise executive, Max also helps corporate refugees and aspiring entrepreneurs navigate one of the most uncertain decisions they'll ever make, choosing the right business to build their future. His story is a masterclass in leading with clarity when the path forward is unclear, adapting with confidence when the ground shifts beneath you, and winning with conviction when starting over seems impossible. Max, welcome to the show.
Hi, Sam. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Likewise. Now, Max, as we talked about in the introduction, it's a fascinating background you've got. You've built multiple businesses across radically different industries: construction, landscaping, bookkeeping, and now franchising. But here's what strikes me. Each time you entered a new space, you admitted you didn't know much about it going in. How do you make confident decisions to pursue opportunities when you don't have all the answers? And what frameworks or tools do you help to decide when and how to take that leap?
If I put it all under one sentence or short paragraph, I would say I'm not afraid of asking questions. I'm not afraid of looking stupid. Like if I don't understand something, I'm going to ask. And if I still don't understand, I'm going to ask again. Please explain it to me in different wording. Please explain it to me. Please show me an example. I mean, when I started the landscaping business, I had no idea how to get it done. I understood the business side, but I was really an apprentice for the first 4 to 6 months.
Mm.
But after I was able to learn it, I passed the contractor's license exam, actually a series of 3 or 4 exams that I had to do. And then I got I got it, and I still was learning. Obviously, I didn't know everything. And then I also knew that I would need to hire people to help me because I don't know everything. Like in bookkeeping, I'm a finance person by trade. I understand how financial statements work. I can talk about it for hours, but I'm not a bookkeeper. You don't want me to do your bookkeeping, it's going to take forever, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of mistakes. But I knew that when I opened the business with my co founder, who was my wife at the time, and she was doing the work because she had master's in accounting, I was doing the sales and business development. And eventually, when business started growing, I hired the first bookkeeper. So she stepped into more like a controller role, and the bookkeeper was doing the bookkeeping.
Mm.
And then in franchising, we got into franchising by accident, started doing bookkeeping for one franchise brands. Now we're doing it for over 100 franchise brands. And being around franchisors, going to all the conferences, I started going to conferences to get new clients. But then I was sitting in the room listening to them, taking notes, and I was thinking, you know what? I love the industry. I love the franchising. And maybe one day when I grow up, I'll franchise my business. And I guess I've grown up. But it's probably a curiosity because literally, I mean, I see a lot of vendors who go to these conferences. They are in the trade show hall, and then when there are lectures or classes or seminars, they're just doing whatever. I was inside listening and learning and, absorbing as much information as I possibly could.
I think I love that explanation, and I think you said a number of things that resonated with me. So number one, I think this idea of being curious, this having this beginner's mind that you can always learn, ask questions, getting different perspectives. I think being open to opportunities, as you say, that you went into these franchise meetings and locations not with all of the answers, but with the idea of, okay, what can I learn? And that learning opened itself to new possibilities. And then finally, I think when you saw an opening or an opportunity, you had done enough of your work, and I guess you trusted your ability and training and experience that had got you to this far, and then your mindset that you would learn what needed to be learned along the way to say this is worth taking a leap.
Yes, 100%.
So let's talk about 2008. As I said in the opening, that you've had almost 100 employees, a thriving construction business, and then it all disappeared. I mean, obviously, you were not the only one. It was a hard situation, hard time for people, unprecedented economic turmoil. But that situation forced you into both business and personal bankruptcy with a baby at home and another on the way. Most people would probably see that as the end of their entrepreneurial dream or road. Walk us through how you made that decision to start over rather than retreat back to safety, go back to call it a corporate job, and what that experience taught you about navigating uncertainty that you still use today.
I probably would given up at that point because I was burned and it was just really hard to admit that you failed and then it's on me. I didn't want to blame the economy because we should have seen that coming way sooner. I mean,
Mm,
what killed us is pretty much we were overcapitalized. We had a lot of equipment and we had to pay for the equipment, but they stopped building. We were doing track homes, and they stopped building track homes in California. Like all of a sudden, it was booming, and then it stopped. So I didn't want to blame anybody, did not, and blaming myself did not help. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is not for me, and I should go back to the corporate world. Luckily, no jobs were available. So nothing was available. If you remember 08 or 09, I mean, people were getting laid off. Nobody was hiring. So I'm like, what do I do now? And I did not have a choice but go and start new business
mm.
because literally that was the only option at a time. When we were forced into bankruptcy, the thought that came to mind is that we wish we had an outside bookkeeping company who would work on our financials. We would see the situation sooner. Again, I was the
Mm.
village idiot with bachelor in finance, but my wife, she had masters in accounting. So we understood the finance. It wasn't like that we did not understand how to read financial statements, but we were so busy growing that we just didn't spend enough time to analyze it. Like we had our finances in order, but nobody sat down and just literally looked at the financials as we should. And that was the first time we were like, well, it would be nice if we have company like that. Believe it or not, back then, 08 or 09, rarely bookkeeping companies existed. Most of the bookkeepers were like a stay-home mom doing a bookkeeping while the kid is in school. I mean, that was literally the extent of it. Some CPA firms were offering it, but it was very expensive. Mostly like one man or one woman show. The companies, there are a lot of them now, it did not exist. And then started the business that was landscape maintenance and built it. We were more successful this time. We sold it eventually. And during this tenure, I was trying to get a bookkeeping quote, and we got 20 quotes from 20 different companies and actually bookkeepers at a time, and they varied from $200 to $2,000 for exactly the same scope of work. And that's when my finance mind knew there is an opportunity because you can have a fork, that large. And that's an opening. And that's when we said we are doing it. And that's how the name Bookkeeping started. And then the company started from the garage, literally. And at the time, I was running two businesses, bookkeeping and then my landscape maintenance, until we sold it a few years later.
Wow. So I think, as you say, it's adapting, right? I mean, you saw the situation, and I love the honesty and candor. You might have given up, but the that option wasn't open for you at that stage, and so again, rather than feeling sorry for yourself or blaming it on all of these factors that are outside of your control, one of the things I always talk about is that it's important to take the Stoic philosophy that it's important to understand exactly what is in your control and what is not, and to focus on it. And your story there is a perfect example of focusing on what you can control, which is not the economy, which is not what everything else is happening around you, but what actions you chose to take afterwards. And today we have bookkeeping.
Look, I mean, I strongly believe that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It did not kill us, even though it felt like it at the time, because literally we had to sell the house, we had to do, a lot of things. I mean, I remember when we were thinking where to get the money to feed the kids. It wasn't for a long time, but when the new business started, I mean, it was, it was pretty tough. And I'm trying not to go back in my memory, but sometimes when something doesn't go my way, I'm going back and I'm remembering, I'm like, you know what? I can do it. I mean, I'm strong. I know that I can pretty much do anything, and that helps. Just the time reference point, just going back and remembering where I was and where I got from then to now.
No, I
That
think
helps a
you're
lot.
absolutely right. It is important for all of us to remember that when we're facing a challenge or a tough time, that it may be different than what we have experienced in the past, but we have experienced other tough times or challenges in the past. And we have to think about what we've learned from it, both about ourselves and about our ability to solve challenges and problems. In fact, when we've talked before, you said that you always try to do something outside the box, something different from how everyone else is doing it. And maybe you can walk us through that mindset with bookkeeping, for example. But the question I want to focus on is doing things differently obviously comes with more risk and uncertainty because there's no proven playbook. So, how do you balance between this innovation and risk taking with the need to actually survive and build a sustainable business?
Well, I think it's just my personality. I get bored if I'm doing everything by the book. It's just me. It's not good or bad. I just like to explore, like to do stuff differently. When we wrote the business plan for bookkeeping as the corporate bookkeeping company, I mean, nobody was even thinking about franchising at the time. Again, that came by accident. We were talking about technology, we were talking about a lot of different options, how to grow the company, how to have several people working on one person's account, what software to use, that type of stuff. So again, it felt like we were pioneers of what was going on at the time. Again, now it's not pioneering. Everybody is doing it. I guess where I leverage the fact that I'm taking the steps is the fact that we are in the very conservative industry. I mean, bookkeeping will be needed all the time. Like, we did not come up with the new social media site that could be worth billions or could go down the drain. And I mean, it's bookkeeping. I mean, everybody needs it. And yes, there are talks about AI, there are talks about what industry is doing right now, what competition is doing, but people still require financial statements. At least people who are smart about it. And I'm like, hey, if you're not looking at your financial statements, let me tell you my story of 08 or 09, and then you probably will change your mind. So yes, I agree. It is risk taking, but it's a calculated risk. Right now, bookkeeping is the only bookkeeping franchise in the United States, and when we decided to open it, when I actually said let's do it, I literally woke up with this idea. And I remember I was using my office in Philippines, and I just woke up and got a napkin. I was sitting in a coffee shop downstairs of the hotel and just started writing down. That was the original business plan for bookkeeping franchise. Okay, people were telling me I'm an idiot, and they're like, "Well, your company is growing. Why are you going? You should put all your strengths, all your force into growing the bookkeeping company." But I listened to them, said thank you, but I did what I did. I'm gonna be responsible for my own decision. And is that an easy road? Absolutely not. I mean, franchising is, challenging. I just came back from a emerging franchise conference in Nashville yesterday, and then I was talking to a lot of franchisors, and everybody been going through the same challenges. I mean, selling the very first one, it was hard. You almost give up. Then you sell the first one, then you sell the first five, and then nothing is happening. I mean, only I want to say 7 or 8% of the franchises in the United States have more than 10 units. So we're
Really?
talking about, and there are probably 4,000 active franchises in the United States. But so getting over 10, it's a big, big win, but people don't realize it because they compare themselves with somebody who has 1,200 units or
Right,
1,500
right.
units. But people forget that this companies most of the time started 40 years ago.
Or
And
longer. No, I think that's a great point, and I hadn't realized it's 7 to 8%. I mean, but yeah, to the extent that benchmarks are useful, you need to have the right benchmarks, right? You can't compare yourself to a McDonald's or a Kentucky Fried Chicken, as you say, that has been around for a lot longer and has a different kind of business model.
absolutely, but it's very interesting. Even I call them monsters in a good way because they're huge numbers. But I just read an article a few days ago that pizza franchises are suffering right now in the United States. Their sales is actually going down because of Uber Eats and
Hmm.
DoorDash
Hmm.
because they were making money on delivery, and now people don't use them because they, for the same amount of money, they can get different food. I don't want to say better or not better,
Yep,
but
yep.
everybody's taste is different. But it changed the whole landscape. I just literally read a few days ago. Who would have thought they were like literally growing month to month, especially during COVID, and then industry change. I mean, look what Uber did to taxis.
It's a great example where we forget that we need to keep our eyes open, that part of dealing with uncertainty, part of being successful as an entrepreneur is keeping your eyes open and your ears open to things that are happening and then to be able to connect the dots. I think your example of Uber is a great example. I mean, yes, Uber, it's relatively simple to see that Uber would have disrupted the taxi industry. It wasn't so easy to say that it could disrupt the fast food restaurant industry, right? Which is exactly what you're saying that it's doing. And perhaps if the some of the pizza franchises and maybe some of them did, but if some of them had started thinking proactively, what could this mean? They might have been able to adapt a little bit faster their business models before the revenue declines that they're experiencing. Max, you're also now helping people make one of the most uncertain decisions of their lives as a franchise expert, leaving the corporate stability to own a franchise or start a business. Now, many of them, we've called them corporate refugees facing layoffs or AI disruption. But obviously I can see a decision like that as being paralyzing, right? I mean, it's something completely new, it's completely unknown, and people will be naturally afraid of making the wrong choice. How do you help them move out of that position of fear and hesitation to one of purposeful action?
Well, the most important step is to figure out what they really want to do. Candidates, when they come and they talk to me, and by the way, my services are completely free. We only get paid if and when somebody buys a franchise. We get a commission from a franchisor, but I actually share part of this commission with my candidates and paying for 9 months of their sales training out of my cut. Okay, so there is no risk for them, but I try to figure out what they like to do, and a lot of people make a mistake of turning their hobby into a business. This is a hard conversation, and I always use the pizza example. I say, well, look, you can have the best recipe that your grandma taught you of the best tasting pizza, but if you buy Pizza Hut, they will not allow you to
Right.
serve with pizza. They have their own recipe that has to taste exactly the same in San Diego, Toronto, or Beijing, China. Okay, so they will not let you experiment. You know, it could be the best cook, But it's one thing to cook for the family of six, is another one
Right.
to produce 100 pizzas an hour that have to come out exactly the same, exact number of pepperonis, and your kitchen has to be set up the way so people don't bump into each other's while they're working on the
Right.
process. So, and people are like, oh, I haven't thought about it. I thought because I like cooking, I'm going to be a restaurant owner. I'm like, you don't have to cook if you own the restaurant. I mean, look, let's take Taco Bell, for example. Taco Bell, the job of the franchisee is not to get the new clients. You're not going to see people going around and giving flyers of Taco Bell. I mean, the corporate is doing that for you. Your job as a franchisee is to fulfill. You don't have to really do any business development because they're running the advertisements during the Super Bowl or whatever, and then people know and then run these promotions. Your job to make sure that when people come in, they're gonna get good food, clean, and it's gonna be according to the standards. I'm not saying it's an easy job. You have to manage 50 to 60 years old or
Hmm. Hmm.
students. And so it has its challenges. So I'm not saying it's an easy job, but it's completely different than when you buy, I don't know, an insurance franchise and you have to go around, knock every business door and try to get a client. Then most of your job, most of your responsibility is actually business development, because then the franchisor is fulfilling and helping you to actually get this insurance deal. So it depends. You have to explore all of your options. I'm not saying one is better than another, but that's a conversation that I'm having with people. And also I'm trying to figure out what's available in their market, okay, and also based on my knowledge, going to industries, talking to other franchisors, doing bookkeeping for over 100 of them, I just give them my opinion where the trends are going. And again, it's just my opinion. I don't have a crystal ball, but right now the senior care is one of the hottest markets, and
Hmm.
people up until now and still they get into senior in home care. Great business. And when people come to me with that, I'm like, great idea. Let me ask you a question. Where are you going to get a talent? Well, yeah, maybe. I'm like, right now, to the best of my knowledge, there are 68 senior in home care franchises in the United States. Not all of them available in every market. Most of them already sold out in all major markets, okay? But 68 plus a lot of independent, senior in-home care companies, they all going after the same talent. It's not about finding the seniors. It's about finding the people who will serve the
Right.
senior. So where are you going to get people? So whenever I talk to any of these franchises, when I go as a franchise broker to conferences and talk to them, my first question, where do you get talent? And everybody's saying it's training, it's culture, but everybody in the same thing is saying the same thing. So if I am a talent, why would I switch from company A, from company B, getting paid exactly the same?
I think that's very insightful. Very, very insightful. I think you're taking the sheen off the glamour or the the dream, if you will. It's what I say for any situation. We have to be able to diagnose the situation objectively, right? See it from all different perspectives without bias, without hope. I mean, you've heard this before. Hope is not a strategy. And I think that was a very powerful what you said, that if you think that you like to run a restaurant, if you like the creative side of, call it, cooking, you need to be very clear that owning one of these franchises for a fast food restaurant, you're not doing that. It doesn't mean that it's not a worthwhile franchise or that you won't be good at it or that you won't have fun at it. But I think you need to be very objective and clear. What is it that this type of business or this type of franchise requires as a skill set? Do you have that skill set? Can you build or develop that skill set? And will you enjoy doing it, right? I mean, there's no point in kind of jumping from, if you are a corporate refugee, jumping from one unhappy situation into another unhappy situation.
Absolutely. And look, some people are not franchise material because some people gonna have hard time following the rules. I
Right.
probably will be a terrible franchisee because I'll have more ideas than the franchisor would want to hear from me. So if I get a franchisee like that, I'm gonna kill us both. So because I would be like, well, let's do this, let's do that, and then franchisor has to explain why he or she is not going to be doing it because that's the brand. I mean, how come I'm not adding taxes? They're like, you're leaving so much money on the table because if you do that, you can upsell. I'm like, well, but then I'm going to be one of many other franchises that do taxes and a little bit of bookkeeping, like H&R Block, Liberty Taxes, which again, it's
A
great
different
business
business.
model. They have a lot of locations, all power to them, but you're not going to see a CPA firm referring business to H&R Block simply because they are a competitor. But we see CPA firms buying bookkeeping franchise or referring business to our franchisees because we are not a competitor. We're a solution to their problem. So again, yes, I am leaving money on the table. Yes, it's very segmented, but that was designed from day one. There is a reason why it's done the way it's done. But if I have a franchisee who is like insisting I want to do taxes, I'm like, I told you before you bought, we're not going to be doing taxes. Nobody prevents you from running another tax company on the side if you like, but it's not going to be done under bookkeeping umbrella.
No, I think that makes total sense. Now, you've said to me before that finding the right franchise for someone is an art. You help them dream about where they want to be in 3 years, but you and I both know that dreams and reality don't always align. So, how do you help people reality test their vision? You talked a little bit about it, but I'd love for you to go into a little bit more detail. How do you help people test that vision and make decisions based on what's actually possible rather than what they hope might happen?
Well, just bringing them to the real world and just explaining, look, in majority of calculations, if you make your money and you start to become profitable on year 3, that's a great model because after that, that becomes just a money making machine for you. So if that happens sooner, that's even better. But a lot of people, I don't know where they get it, that, well, I want to buy a franchise and I want to return my investment in 6 months. And I'm like, well, if that would happen, I would buy in myself because this is awesome investment. But in most of the cases, it does not happen. I mean, magic can happen. And look, if it happens, good for you. But that shouldn't be part of your calculation. And a lot of people are afraid of getting loans. And I have to educate people. The Small Business Administration in the United States exists for a reason. They exist to help people to start businesses. It's relatively easy to get the SBA loan when you buy a franchise because it is a proven model. If you buy an existing business, then they will want to see all the calculations, all the
Mhm.
business plans, and do like a huge due diligence. When you buy a franchise, they already know there were people before you who bought
Done it.
it. You have to qualify. You have to be part of the SBA registry. So not every franchise is. Bookkeeping is. 20 franchises I think that I work with are part of that. So we can actually help them to choose from one of those. Get the loan. A lot of these loans are not secure, meaning you don't have to have a collateral, you don't have to have a house, you just have to have a good credit history and to be able to pay the loan. I mean, I can tell you that $150,000 loan, and this is not an offering of the loan, but and the rate varies obviously based on the prime rate, but because some of our franchisees and some of my candidates are doing that through SBA, for the $150,000 payments are under $2,000 a month, and as the interest rate goes down, gonna be even less. So when you do your calculation, look, I mean, if you can buy it and pay 2,000, but that you can be making $5,000-6,000 in the next 5 to 6 months, then you're gonna be cash flow positive. I mean, that's what we need to look at. And let's say it only costs $100,000 to buy the business, and you get $150,000. Use the 50,000 to live on for the next, I don't know, 6 months to 12 months. Instead of going to your saving, make it as part of the loan.
Right.
Oh, I never thought about it this way. Because a lot of people want to buy a cash flow positive business, pay, I don't know, $200,000 and make the money. I'm like, wait, pay $100,000 and have the 100,000 that you have left to pay for your living expenses. So
Oh, I think
again,
that's being prudent.
Nothing changes. It's the same numbers, but people just don't look at it this way because not a lot of people. I mean, not a lot. Not everybody has the finance mind. They just don't look at numbers that you can slice it and dice it this way. So
No,
that's
but I
what it
think
is.
you,
Sorry, that's why I say it's an art because you have to explain to people. So it's not like, okay, I talk to you, here is the test profile, you have to open a painting company. It doesn't work like that. Even though a lot of algorithms are actually going to help you take the test and they give you 5 recommendations. I never do that. I just talk to people. This is just a free flow conversation. Let's talk. I want to see what your dreams are. And then the first question I asked them, what do you want to do with the business in 10 years? Do you want to sell it? Or do you want to give it to your kids? Or do you want to continue running it for the next 40 years? Because your strategy should be different based on this answer.
totally. I think that's absolutely bang on. Max, you've said that you've went from being a self-described micromanager who did everything yourself to building teams and delegating effectively. Now, that's a huge shift in how somebody operates, particularly in an uncertain world, trusting others with critical outcomes. So, what was the turning point that forced you to change, and how did you learn to let go of control while still driving the type of results that you want?
Well, I would be scared to say the word effectively. I hope I'm getting more effective than I was. I just started doing that. Look, Sam, jokes aside, I'm learning all the time. Still, the micromanager wakes up sometimes and I get into this and I'm like, Max, you have to stop. And my team knows when it's happening. They're like, oh, shoot, here he comes again. Because, I started looking at the size of the font and everything else, but which I no executive should be doing it. But the reason I made a switch is because I just got burned out. I pretty much just lost the interest and I could feel it. I don't want to call it depression because it wasn't like clinical depression, but it
Hmm.
was just stopped being fun. I mean, I was working for, before I started my business, I was working for Qualcomm, which was the largest employer in San Diego, and I got the job right after college. Was a great position. I mean, the benefits, the stock options, stock was growing, and then in 4 years, I gave him a 2 week notice and I left because I just got bored. It wasn't challenging for me. I knew everything that I need to do. I was coming home and I was just feeling depressed. Okay. And I just told myself it's time to do something. And then exactly the same thing happened. I just got burned out and I lost interest because a lot of my work was, mechanical stuff. I was just doing same thing day in, day out. I'm like, there is no challenge. In order for me to challenge myself, I have to give up a lot of my responsibilities. And that's when I hired my first executive assistant, and that's when I started giving more to my team. I'd say probably I have about 20%, maybe 30% of my task that can still be offloaded looking for the right person. It's not that hard. Even sale and business development for all of my businesses, I don't have to do all of it. But, I went through quite a few people and I wasn't able to find the right match. But I'm still looking and I know at some point I will find it. So I didn't have a choice mentally because, again, I would just say, you know what? I'm done. I'm gonna check out. I don't want to do anything because it just stopped being fun. And look, when it's not fun, then when I reposition myself, that's when bookkeeping franchise started. Then that's when a franchise brokerage started because I always want to be challenged. I always want to learn, and I always want to delegate more and more of my day-to-day stuff to the team, which makes them grow as well, by the way.
And it's obviously sounds like it's worked for you, right? I think it's a mindset shift, as you say. We come from a place where we can do it all. I think all of us start that early in our careers, and there becomes a time when, as you get more successful, as you grow, you just simply do not have enough time in the day to do all of it. What you've done, where others may have faltered, is that you've recognized the problem and you've tried to see, okay, how can I move away from it? And you're being honest. This is a work in progress. I think if you are a micromanager at heart, you're not ever going to let go 100%, but it's just a constant reminder to yourself, is this really where you need to be spending your time, or is there better places for it? And again, thinking that if you have a broader stakeholder group, which includes your employees and others, like is micromanaging this instead of letting them do their best on it and learn the process, what's the better long-term outcome, right? I guess it's the old biblical saying, teach a man to fish and they're never hungry, right?
Exactly.
So, looking ahead, Max, we're entering a period of massive disruption with AI, lots of economic uncertainty, and majorly shifting work patterns. What do you think this means for franchising and business ownership? So, what trends are you seeing that you think others might be missing? And how are you positioning yourself and your businesses to capitalize on what's coming rather than just react to it?
Well, I actually, and it's not just me, just talking to other franchisors and the industry leaders, we predict that the franchising as the industry gonna grow because all the people that are gonna be losing the jobs, they have to do something. And so they probably won't be able to find the jobs again. I mean, I've heard this number and I did not fact check it, so I don't know how true it is, but I've heard that when the car is going to be self-driving, just the trucking industry, which again I see happening, the question is when. Is it 5 years from now, 10 years from now? 8 million people will lose their jobs. 8 million people, Sam. So they have to do something. What are they gonna do? I mean, eventually it's gonna be self-driving Ubers, so all the Uber drivers, taxi drivers, also gonna lose the job.
Mhm.
So what these people are gonna be doing? And my prediction is that they're gonna be buying businesses. But instead of starting business and learning from scratch, buying a franchise gives you a roadmap, and pretty much it teaches you as long as you do what you're supposed to do. If everything goes fine, you should be successful. So you should be making what other people are making. The US government, in my opinion, will make the money available for people to buy businesses, and probably more than even now, just because they will want people to. It's better than pay for their, welfare. It's better to
Mhm.
help them
Mhm.
to open the businesses. So I see the number of franchises growing, and look, people will still need services. And I get this question asked all the time. Are you afraid of AI taking over the bookkeeping industry and then you guys going to be obsolete? And I just telling people, I don't think that will happen soon. I mean, I'm not know what's going to happen in 50 years. And between you and me, I don't care. Right now, I don't see because people still want to talk to the live person. Like when my team talks to a client, they talk about accounting, let's say for 20, 30 minutes, and then it talk about their family, it's talk about their kids, grandkids, their trips, because now they develop a relationship. I don't care what kind of bot you have, AI bot, but it's not going to be the same. People still will want to talk to the live person, okay? So what we're doing now, what was taking us, let's say, 3 hours before, because of AI and QuickBooks Online and everything else and technology changing, now might take us 1 hour. So now we can do 3 clients for the price of one. So we're adjusting the prices. Instead of increasing them, we are actually passing on the savings to our clients. Not a lot of my competition is doing it because, and I'm like, well, I can't cut my revenue by 66%. And I look at it differently. Yes, I'll cut it by 60%, but I'll get more clients. I'll get a bigger market share.
That's smart.
Ultimately, it's going to be even better. And if it's going to take us less time, but still going to be this human factor, even if at some point it's going to be 3 minutes. We're not there yet, but 5 minutes, whatever it is, this conversation, we're going to be just billing the conversation. We're going to be billing $50 for bookkeeping, and everything else going to be automated. People still going to be paying for that.
Yeah, look, I believe that 100% for almost all service businesses that are there. It is still applying knowledge and judgment. And I think AI, to your point, I don't think is anywhere near being able to replace human judgment in the situation. Leave aside the empathy, the relationship building skills. People still want to deal with people. AI is going to make it faster, easier, scalable, more efficient, and all of that, but it's not going to replace a good service business.
Look, I remember even when I started franchising, people were coming from the area, franchisee of bookkeeping that I've never been, and like, well, help me to map my territory. And I spend hours looking at the map, going, okay, how do I do it so it's fair to them? And then people who come and become their neighbors. And now it literally takes minutes because I
Mm,
just plug it in. The AI is doing that, drawing the map. I'm still giving it to my executive assistant to fact check it and verify. So she still goes and checks the number of population per zip code from two different sources. So, but that's just me. At some point, I'm just going to give it up. And AI is always right. I mean, it's probably a couple percent, here or there, which is not a big deal. But for now, I feel more comfortable that somebody's double checking the work, okay? But it takes minutes versus literally 4 or 5 hours. That's what it was taking before. So it gives so much time back to me that I'm planning to use AI as much as I can. But this is a tool. I don't think AI will replace human. At least, I don't want, my kids talk to AI instead of their dad. I still want to have this communication, and I want to talk to
No,
my friends. I don't want to talk to their bots. I want to see how
totally
they
agree.
do it.
Max, we're coming to the end of our podcast, so I have a few final rapid fire questions for you that I ask all my guests. So, number one, professionally, what is the most important lesson you've learned over the years?
It's both professional and personally. If I see a door in front of me, I'm always gonna try to open it and peek inside and see what's going on. I will never pass any door. It might not be door for me, might be door for somebody else, but if I see a door, and teaching my kids the same, just look. Maybe that's going to be an opportunity for you. I mean, if I did not look into franchising, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I mean, I get a lot of offers from different candidates like, hey, why don't you go and become a partner with me on this business or that business? So far, I've been saying no, but I look at every opportunity. And maybe at some point, I will say, yes, let's do it because that's going to be the right opportunity. So my rule is just I see the door, I try to open it. If there is lock on it, I probably will not break it. But if it's open, which most of them are, at least I'm gonna look and see what's inside.
That's a great lesson. Number two, what is one practical tip you would offer listeners keen on applying your insights?
Have a plan and follow your plan, because if you don't have a plan, then you work under somebody else's plan. Okay, so have your have your weekly to-do list, monthly to-do list, daily, and then look at it at the end of every night or in the morning. Just see what you have, and that helps me a lot, because we just, okay, it's Thursday and I'm going to just see what's going to happen, then I'm not getting stuff done, but I'm writing down 2 3 things that I need to get done. I eat my frog early in the morning, so this way, if I did that, I'm happy. Even if I don't do anything else, that's fine. I mean, there are many times when I do what I have to do, and yes, I probably will find what else to do, but I feel happy. I've done what I should. I close my computer and I go for a 10K walk and listening to some podcasts, come up with ideas, or go to a gym. And that's sort of fine, and I'm happy. That one of the
You've
best
achieved
things.
something.
Absolutely.
Max, this is a fascinating and timely discussion. If listeners want to learn more about you, bookkeeping, or your work, where do they go?
The best way to find me is actually go on my website, franchisewithmax.com. It's franchisewithmax.com. And there you can choose if you want to talk to me as a broker, as the bookkeeping franchisor, or if you need a bookkeeping for your business. You will talk to somebody from my teams, but eventually I promise you will get to me and we'll have a personal conversation. So it's franchisewithmax.
Awesome. Max, thank you for joining us today on the Uncertainty Edge podcast.
Sam, thank you for the opportunity. That was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Likewise. In this episode of the Uncertainty Edge podcast, I spoke with Max Emma, a serial entrepreneur who lost everything in the 2008 financial crisis and rebuilt from bankruptcy to create bookskeeping.com, the only bookkeeping franchise in the United States. Today, Max helps corporate refugees and aspiring entrepreneurs navigate one of the most uncertain decisions of their lives, choosing the right business to build their future. Here are my 3 key takeaways. Number one, curiosity and a beginner's mind are your greatest competitive advantages. Max entered construction, landscaping, and bookkeeping without being an expert in any of them, and succeeded each time by asking questions relentlessly, absorbing knowledge from every room he sat in, and hiring people who knew what he didn't. His willingness to look uninformed in the short term is precisely what made him formidable in the long term. In a world that rewards the appearance of confidence, Max's story is a powerful reminder that admitting what you don't know and then going on to learn it is a strategy, not a weakness. Number two, setbacks are data, not destinations. Losing everything in 2008, the house, the business, the financial security, could have ended Max's entrepreneurial journey. Instead, it handed him the insight that launched bookkeeping.com. He and his wife, both finance educated, had been too busy growing to actually analyze their own numbers. Rather than blaming the economy or spiraling into regret, Max extracted a lesson and built a business around solving the exact problem that had undone him. The takeaway for all of us: your worst failure may contain your clearest market signal if you're willing to look at it honestly. Number three, franchising is a mirror, not a magic carpet. Max's work as a franchise broker reveals a critical truth that too many aspiring business owners miss. Buying a franchise doesn't buy you freedom from self-awareness. The people who struggle are those who mistake passion for fit, or who expect returns in 6 months on a 3-year model. Max's process strips away this fantasy. What do you actually want in 10 years? Are you someone who follows systems or fights them? Where will your talent come from? The right franchise isn't the most exciting one. It's the one that matches who you actually are and what your market can actually support. Max reminds us, whether you're rebuilding after bankruptcy or leaving a corporate career for the first time, the path forward requires intellectual honesty, calculated risk, and the discipline to follow a plan, as even when, or especially when, the ground is shifting beneath you. Thanks for listening to The Uncertainty Edge. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Uncertainty Edge. If today's conversation sparked something, subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. You'll get practical tools, deeper insights, and new episodes every other Tuesday. Please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also subscribe to the newsletter at theuncertaintyedge.com